Okay, hello. Let's say we have to find, so last time I covered percentile as a measure of relative standing. Now, I showed you how to calculate that percentile. Now, what if you needed to get to find the 50th percentile? Well, you have a couple of steps to follow in order for you to be able to do such things. First thing you need to do is to find something called a locator, because finding the 50th percentile is as if you're trying to, remember, divide this into 100 groups, and you're gonna try to get that value which is at the 50th, so right in the middle of that value. It's the same thing as the median, okay? But in this case, we're looking at it as if it's a percentile, the 50th percentile, okay? So how do you get that value really when it comes to percentile? So what you do is, the first thing you have to do is to get something called the locator, okay? We have the locator, and most of the time we call it L, locator L. So now there's another thing to know here is that you need to get the locator, and the formula to get it is by dividing k by 100 times n. Now, n is the number of values you have, total number of values. Okay, k is the actual percentile, whatever you want to get. In this case, 50. Okay, so k is 50. So what you're gonna do here is to calculate L, the locator, and the locator is to tell you where that value is, the 50th percentile, the value at the 50th percentile. So that's why you need the locator. So now, what do? Well, you do k, which is 50, okay, divided by 100, okay, times what, n, and what was n again? N is the total number of values you have here, okay? So in this case, I'll put 10, I believe, 10, okay? So from here, what do you have? Well, you have equals to, now 10 times 50 would be 500, okay? And divided by 100, that's 5, right? So 5. So L, the locator, is actually 5. Now, once you get the locator, what do? Well, you ask yourself this question. So ask yourself this question. Is the locator, is it actually a whole number? If yes, in this case, it's a yes, it's a whole number. So since it's a whole number, 5 is a whole number. All you have to do is actually take the fifth value you see from the data. So I'm gonna take the fifth value plus, so you add to the next value, which is the 21st value, okay? Not 21st, the 6th value, I'm saying in this case, divided by, what is it, 2, because it's as if you're trying to get those two values, like the median again, as I told you. So you get 5, the fifth, which is location 5. Once you see 5, it tells you the location, not the number, but the location. So you at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm right here. So you have to take the fifth value and the next value, okay? So the next value, which is 9, okay? So the fifth, 8, plus the next 9, divided by 2, because you're trying to get the value midway between the fifth and the 6th, because you have, it's a whole number, okay? So now, once you do that, you get, this will be 17, right? 17 divided by 2, which is 8.5, right? Okay, so 8.5. That means that value you need is actually 8.5. Now, one thing to remember here is that, what if it was actually not a whole number? Well, if it was not if it was a decimal number, let's say 5.1, for example, or 5.2, whatever, you would just go up to the next value. So instead of choosing the fifth value, you would just have chosen the next value, which is 9. So for example, let's say this was, after you did everything here for the locator, you got 5.1 or 5.2 or 5.3 or 5.5, whatever you get, you would still round up to the next value, in which case it would be, instead of having the fifth, choosing the fifth and the sixth, you would just choose the next, which is the sixth value. In this case, it would be 9. So 9 would be the value you needed. Okay? So this is a very important skill. Why? Because it will actually help you find some of the other measures of relative standing. So to know exactly where the position of that value for each percentile, it is actually a good skill, so you can get to those other values. And I'm going to show you later on why it's so important. Okay, so remember, you need to get a locator. After you get the locator, you need to get to check whether it's a whole number or not. If it's a whole number, well, you have to take the value you have, the fifth value, and the next value, which is the sixth, divided by 2. You add them, you divide by 2 to get the actual value at the 50th percentile. Okay, now the reason why I'm telling you this is because we need to, it's like a bridge to the next measures of relative standing. Okay, because guess what, we have other measures of relative standing, like and I'm going to just explain this, because once you understand what I just did at the beginning here, this will be pretty simple for you. So I'm just going to explain. Now, let's say you have the next value here, the next measures of relative standing would be quartiles. Okay, and by saying quartiles, you know exactly what we mean. So we have a data set, and it's actually divided into quarters, right? So if that's the case, let's say this is just a figure just to show you what I mean. If that's the case, that means you will have a quarter 2 right here, second quartile, and you will have the first quartile here and the third quartile, meaning that you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it divides a data set into 4 equal parts. Okay, so like 25, 25, 25, 25. Okay, so that's what the quartiles will do. Now, it turns out once I tell you this, it should tell you something next. What should that tell you? Well, if you have a data data set right in front of you, if you need to get the first quartile, for example, the first quartile, okay, you can either say the first quartile would be the median of the first half. Okay, because if you think of this as half, as the first half, and this is the second half, then the median, the Q1 here, first quartile here, would be the median of the first half, right? You can call it the median of the first half, which you know how to calculate median. Okay, I'm gonna say median of first half. Okay, or you could say something else. You could say it's actually P25. Okay, so it's actually P25, so the number at the 25th percentile. Okay, which you know how to calculate from the beginning. I showed you how to do that, right? Because I calculated P50 for you. You could have calculated P25 the same way. Okay, so if you don't remember that you have to do the median of the first half, you could just do P25. All right, now how about Q2? Well, Q2 would be the median of the entire data set, right? Median of entire set of data. Okay, now again, how, if you think of doing it by percentile, what percentile would that be? be 50 because it's right in the middle, the 50th percentile. Okay? How about Q3? Now you already see where I'm going, right? Q3 would then be the median of the second half. Okay? Or if you don't want to say the median of the second half, you can actually calculate P75. Okay? So not bad at all. This is these all 3 here, the first, second, and third quartile. So as long as you know how to find median, which I show you in my previous video, one of my previous videos, as long as you know how to find percentile, as I showed you again at the beginning of this, the location, this would be pretty easy for you to do. It's not bad at all. You just need to make sense of what you're doing. And what does that do really? It helps you play with your data set. You actually know the position of all the values here. And guess what? This is actually, these are what you use to answer a question about the what we call the five number summary. Okay? And which will have the minimum value, which will have Q1, 3 it will have Q2, 4 it will have Q3, and 5 number will be the maximum, which you can get all from the data set. And guess what? If you present those values to someone, it will tell them a lot about the data values. Why? Because because you have the minimum, the maximum, and you separate it into quarters, so it will make sense to that person reading it. Okay? Now, it's a way to present your data, so you can actually use a graph called the box plot. This is what you use to make a box plot, right? A box plot would be something like this. Let me just show you, just so you could see what I'm saying here. Okay, and it will be like this, for example. I'm just showing you. So you have a line segment from the minimum value all the way to the maximum value. Okay, so those are the two values. Imagine you have those two values, so you can already make that box, the line segment, right? Then the first value here, the first line you have here, vertical line, it's at Q1. Okay, once you know Q1, you can put it there. The second one is at Q2, and the third one here is at Q3. Okay, so if you, what I just taught you here, you can actually use it to make a box plot. And what would that do? That would present the data set to someone, and that person can actually see the minimum, the maximum, first quartile, second quartile, third quartile. So this is very important, very, very nice for you to do. But all this, again, if you know how to find the location of a number by just having the percentile of that number, that value, data value, then it's pretty easy for you to find the Q1, Q2, and Q3. And remember what I just said about Q1, Q2, and Q3. Okay? So this was a presentation about percentiles and quartiles, measures of relative standing. Okay? This is the last video on that, actually. Thanks.